Hey everybody, it's Jason Wood of 11 O'Clock Comics, and the best thing I read this week was Shuna's Journey by Hayao Miyazaki. Shuna's Journey was first published back in 1983, nearly 40 years ago, but it took until this year for a U.S. publisher in First Second to acquire the rights and bring the book over in English, and I, along with many of you, are very happy about that. Credit to Alex Dudok DeWitt, who translates the book and writes the intro. The book runs 160 pages and has a 6x9 trim size. It's a hardcover with a dust jacket, very well packaged, as are most First Second books. And I've seen a lot of people call this a manga in write-ups and solicits, and that's totally understandable because it is a Japanese illustrated sequential story. But as Alex Dudok DeWitt tells us in the intro, it's technically not a manga. It's something known as a Mino no Hashi, which is an adjacent term, but it basically means single volume illustrated picture book. So what is Shuna's Journey about? Well, the book is based on a Tibetan folk tale called The Prince Who Became a Dog, which Miyazaki was familiar with as a child. He took the kernels of that story and gave us an arc involving Shuna, who is a young prince from a small mountain province, and his province deals with persistent famine and poverty. He hears of a magic golden seed that, if planted, could fix his people's problems forever. But the seed is very hard to obtain, it may not even exist, and it's allegedly located far to the west. The young prince goes on a journey for the seeds, and along the way, as you might expect, he encounters a ton of dangers: hunger, thirst, exhaustion, and a handful of ne'er-do-wells. During his journey, he comes upon a city-state and goes in to exchange goods, try and restock, and comes across a number of slaves, including 2 young girls. This doesn't sit well with him, so he sneaks back into the castle late at night and rescues them. The slave owners and their enforcers give chase, and it's a long, adventurous chase, but they do manage to avoid that danger. And eventually, Shuna parts ways with the slave girls, the older one, who is named Thea, and heads back on his quest. Our hero finally makes it out west, and what he discovers is, I think, evocative of Miyazaki's best works. It is this land that is full of green, lush foliage, just countless types of animal and insect and fish species, things that Shuna and his people have never seen before. There's also this really strange, very hard to describe, sentient alien-like creature that appears to be responsible for creating the golden seeds, the thing that he's been questing for. Shuna does eventually steal some of the seeds, and, well, he has a price to pay. He's effectively knocked out and is rendered catatonic. But as luck would have it, Thea, the rescued slave girl, finds Shuna and brings him back to her new home and nurses him back to health. So the question before us is, at the end, do the seeds he stole save his people? Well, that you're going to have to read for yourself and find out. Anyone familiar with Miyazaki's animation will feel right at home here with the creative, detailed watercolor painting and soft color palette. While Shuna's Journey is a relatively straightforward story with a simple premise, where it gets really exciting for me is that this felt like I was getting a peek into a genius's first steps to greatness. And let's be honest, that's exactly what this was. Miyazaki wrote and drew this about 2 years before founding Studio Ghibli. I don't think it would be particularly fair to compare Shuna's Journey to some of the absolute classics that Miyazaki went on to make, like My Neighbor Totoro and Nausicaa and Princess Mononoke, and of course, Spirited Away. But I do think the story is charming and worthy of a read, particularly because so many of us have grown up loving Miyazaki's works, and I think seeing this will give you a glimpse into what got that genius career started. That wraps up the best thing I read this week, and as always, thank you for the time. For those who celebrate, Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah. For those who don't, Happy Festivus for the rest of us. Please remember to check out our podcast, 11 O'Clock Comics, on Apple, Spotify, and all your other favorite podcast catchers. And visit us at 11o'clockcomics.com and patreon.com/11o'clockcomics. See you next week.